So inshallah, we are going to have a 15-minute question and answer. The first question, which I should move this about now, is when the test we're struggling with has to do with fighting sins, how do we keep our connection with Allah strong even when we feel ashamed of ourselves?
You know, the believer is between hope and fear. So the first thing is that we should always do our best to have hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And fear, if it has a level of guilt, meaning I committed something, I committed a sin, I'm doing it repeatedly, I need help to get out of this sin, guilt leads us to repent. Guilt leads us to say, should motivate us to do better, but never shame. Shame is different. Shame says, I'm bad, I'm a horrible person, I'm not worthy. You're just a horrible person, you're so stupid, you can't do this, you never get it right. This actually is very damaging. And subhanAllah, Allah Ta'ala doesn't call us to shame. He calls us to have a fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this fear even is as a result of just that Allah is so merciful. He's so glorious. He's so magnificent. He's so forgiving. He's so oft returning that He didn't abandon me even while I was committing this action. He didn't abandon me. So if Allah didn't give up on me, I shouldn't give up on myself. So this is, part of it. And find a way that if there's a particular sin that you're committing, if you're committing it with a certain person or certain people, change them out. You need some new people. You need some new people, you need some new circumstances, you need a new hangout crew. And whatever you're doing, find an alternative. Meaning if this is something we get together, we do every Friday night, then every Friday night we need to do something else. And it needs to be something that you enjoy. Something that, you feel good about. Something you feel connected to. And usually that when we fall into certain sins, especially those that are repetitive, it's usually because there's something deeper inside that we're craving. So I'm a big believer in soul searching and finding out what is it that I'm deeply craving. For example, if it was alcohol or smoking weed or things like that, it's usually because, I just want to forget about my problems for a while. I want to check out. So there are other positive methods of checking out. There are other positive methods of where it's not self-destructive. So I just want to say that, the other thing that Yaser Birjas, may Allah bless him forever and ennoble his face and raise his rank, when he was talking about like the akhirah, it's better, yes, it is as it relates to the akhirah in terms of Jannah, it's better, but also what's coming next is going to be better than this moment. Meaning this isn't forever. We have a saying in our tradition that says trouble doesn't last always. So it will, what's coming next, if you push through, you hold tight, it will get better. It will get better.
That's true. I'm just going to add one very practical thing you can do that will surprise you how effective it is. And it is becoming fanatically committed to doing your salah on time. I promise you that one thing can conquer so many habits that you're trying to get out of. You will be surprised. You will surprise yourself. Rather than focus on the thing you're trying to stop doing, you set that aside for a second and you say, I'm just going to do one thing, which is I'm going to do every single one of my salahs, 5 salahs a day, on time, no matter what. And you just make that one commitment. And the way it works, the way your day starts to become structured, it will replace. You see, one of the things about habits, it's very hard to quit a habit. You have to replace a habit with another habit. A bad habit with a good habit. And if you can just set that thing aside, you don't even have to initially focus on stopping it. You're just gonna say, I'm not gonna stop doing that. I'm just gonna start praying on time, no matter what, every single one of my 5 salah. You will find it more and more difficult. If you do that one thing, pray your salah on time, every single one of them, no matter what, you will make it will become more and more difficult to continue in the bad habit that you're struggling against.
What is it again?
The question again is, how do you deal with the hardship brought about you by a family member? How do you avoid feeling resentment?
So the question is, why do we even have resentment, when we deal with hardships with people and so on? You see, I remember actually mentioned some of this last year convention as well, and remind people that the number one reason for what we call the silent killer of all relationships, specifically with family members, whether it's your spouse, your parents, your children, the number one silent killer of all relationship is called expectation. When you expect from your family members a certain level, and then they fail that expectation, at least in your own mind, maybe they don't even pay attention to that they're failing your expectation, but at least that's what you expect from them, that leads to a feeling of uncertainty about, how it's going to look like in the future. Is it going to be the case forever? My child now is changing on me. My spouse is changing on me. My child is changing on me. So therefore, we have this expectation that leads to an anxiety because it's a self-defense mechanism that at some point, because we're not dealing with it properly, it leads to fear of the unknown, and that gets really scary, and people, they start feeling numb, and that's when we start closing completely and shutting down. That's when the resentment come in. So resentment is one step before you start getting angry. And if you're getting angry, it's not a problem. I keep telling people when they come to me for counseling, I said, listen, they keep saying, I have anger issues. I said, anger is never an issue. No, you don't understand. It runs in the family. I don't believe that. Because anger is anger, and anger, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put anger as part of our, structure as human beings, it's a self-defense mechanism. Anger is only a siren. It's just a smoke that something wrong is happening. You need to dig deep down to see what are these uncertainties that we're dealing with leading to resentment. So if you see that resentment against your family members, then instead of worrying about being resentful, try to understand, how did they fail my expectation of them that I'm feeling resentful towards them? Maybe it's your fault. التمس لأخيك 70 عذرا. That's the meaning of find 70 excuses for your brothers and sisters. And if you couldn't find any, maybe you should blame yourself. That maybe I am putting them at a pedestal, putting them at an expectation that is not meant to be for them. Depends on the circumstances. That's very important. Wallahu a'lam.
When it comes to resentment towards family members, people who are in your family, one, it happens. So let me say that, meaning breathe, that you're not the only one. It's not a matter that, I cannot, if you tell me a family that doesn't have problems, you're looking at a family of angels. That every family has conflicts that lead to an ill sentiment in the heart. What is extremely important, though, is that we don't give up on each other. And not giving up on each other does require us to remove our expectations from someone, but also it requires us to continuously talk to them. Let me tell you what I mean. And talk to them without expectations. Meaning that if someone says, to you, you know what, the reason why you don't get married is because it's because you're so stupid. Right? If you were smart, then more guys would come ask for your hand in marriage. Of course, naturally, this is going to create some feeling of resentment. However, I want us to speak to people, but to their heart. To speak to them and just take the chance to say, you know what, when you say that to me, that deeply hurts. Or when you say that to me, it doesn't make me more intelligent. Or it actually doesn't make me more confident. It doesn't make me a better Muslim. It doesn't endear my heart toward you. Now, the part where you don't have expectations is people don't change overnight. So don't expect that immediately that's going to melt their heart. They're going to be like, oh, you're so right, Habibti, what was I thinking? I'm so sorry. That's not going to happen. Usually, it's not going to happen. Initially, you might get a reaction that's negative. And that might happen regularly. But I want, instead of speaking to their external self, speaking to their external demeanor, speaking to their outward behavior, just keep speaking to their heart. Just Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, just keep planting a seed in their heart. Don't make it long and drawn out. Don't, don't go, I hate when you do this. You always do this to me. No, just one thing. When you do that, it really deeply hurts me. That really doesn't make me feel better about our relationship. That doesn't make me a better person. When you speak to me that way, it doesn't make me smart. Just a small seed. Just each time when it happens. Eventually that person will begin to reflect on their behavior even if they don't do it in front of you. Usually they don't do it in front of you. The other thing is that complaining and negativity becomes a habit. We become so used to doing it, especially with family members. Like we become so used to doing it with each other, that it just becomes like rote. It's just something we do. And so it takes a lot to stop. It takes time to stop complaining about each other. It takes time to stop, that bickering. And so, like we mentioned before, replace something negative with something positive. So if you want to say something back, find something positive to say. If you are that person that is resented against, then find something. If you're that person that you feel like, I had this expectation. I thought you were going to be, a neurosurgeon by the age of 22. If you're that person with this high expectation, creating other people to feel resentful, find something positive to say. Even if it's small, find something to be grateful for in them because they are a gift for you from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So don't be a nag.
Everything, of course, that was just said is, I 100% agree with and is completely correct. I do want to address, though, situation that might be beyond just, a simple dispute or an issue of, misunderstanding or miscommunication. In the case of a hardship brought upon by a family member that is in the form of abuse, physical, sexual, emotional, then, we have a completely different conversation. And I do want to address that because I think it's important that situation also be dealt with in some fashion. And I think that my other two panelists are actually much more qualified than I to do so. But very briefly, first of all, if you are going through a process like that, if you are going through a situation where a family member is abusing you, the first thing you need to know is it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. You didn't bring it upon you. This is not because anything wrong in you, even though they may be telling you that you are bringing it upon yourself. They are ill, they are sick, and they are justifying what they are doing to themselves and to you. Don't believe them. It's not your fault. The second thing you should know is your right to be safe supersedes all other things. Supersedes the idea of, respect for elders or things like you have to keep, relations with your relatives no matter what. You being safe from abuse supersedes everything else. So get to a situation where you are safe, where you are not in a situation where you can be abused. If it means not being alone with this person, you have to set boundaries and reach out for help. What keeps young people or people in a situation like that from reaching out for help is because of the first thing, they're ashamed. They think it's their fault. They think something they've done has brought it about. Break that sense of shame, reach out for help, and get safe from this situation. And then what do you do about resentment? There is a long healing process, and I'm not here to tell you it's easy. I'm not here to tell you it's quick. But through that healing process, at some point, you will let go of that anger. Not because that person is good, but because you deserve to free your heart from it. And you will know that Allah will take care of any abuser or anyone who has oppressed you in their own way. You resenting them is only hurting you. It's like taking poison because you're angry at someone else. So I'm not telling you it's easier, it's going to happen overnight, but eventually, letting go of that resentment and anger and getting healed is how you will make yourself whole again. And believe in a Lord who is just. Believe in the revenge taker. You're not the one who's going to take your revenge, and resenting them forever is hurting. It will eventually hurt you. It is natural to feel that way for a period of time, but the healing process will require you to let go of that eventually.